I'd like to welcome Professor Yossef Rapoport. Welcome. Yossef is Professor of Islamic History at Queen Mary University London. He researches medieval Islamic maps, focusing on Arabic maps from the Middle Islamic period. And he's going to talk to us this morning about the greatest medieval map maker, which sounds fabulous. Hand over to you.
Thank you very much for these invitations, Nick and John and Helen. This has been really, these advances in technology leave us medievalists far behind. And it truly opens our eyes to what can be done with the artifacts, with the map we're working with. So my talk will not be about technology as such. It's more about what I hope technology could solve, what questions technology could solve for us, more analog historians of map, I would say, specifically looking at the example of a map maker and the manuscripts, two of them here in the Bodleian Library, which really are so important for the history of medieval cartography. And of course, I'm bringing here the perspective of the Islamic world. Although we'll come back to the Gulf map at the end in a different way. So I'm going to give mainly the historical context, the historical background, and the questions we are trying to deal with as historians of maps. We're looking at this map, which John has already shown and has worked so much on. This map was originally made in, so the original, not this copy, which is a 16th century one, but the original was made in Palermo in the 1150s by Al-Idrisi, who was an Arabic-speaking scholar working in the court of the Norman king of Sicily, Roger, in the trilingual context that existed in Sicily following the Norman conquest, which is about the same time of the Norman conquest of these lands. And the Norman kings left the bureaucracy working in Arabic after it had been under Arab rule. So the bureaucracy was in Arabic. A lot of works were translated from Arabic and from Greek into Latin, but at least for a century after the conquest, there was three languages together. What Al-Idrisi tells us in his book, the book Nuzhat al-Mushtaq, or Entertainment to the one who travels the world, he tells us that Roger, who was his friend, Al-Idrisi, grew up in Sicily, and partly was a companion of Roger since childhood. He tells us when Roger's kingdom expanded, he wanted to make a map of the world. And he wanted us to prepare a silver disc showing the world. This was quite megalomaniac in a way, because Roger only ruled Sicily and a few little towns in North Africa. But this is, you know, what's interesting here, following the preceding talks, is that what Idrisi tells us is that they had a big drawing board, and the main thing there was to draw the distances between places. So they had scientists, informants coming over and telling them this is the distance between different places, and they had a drawing board. We don't know how this drawing board looked like. And from that, they created a silver disc which depicted the world, the different climes, the distances as well, and the shorelines. We don't have the silver discs, we have factums, wonderful, which was presented here in the Bodleian. Some map historians think, I'm one of them, that this world map that is at the beginning of some of the manuscripts of Al-Idrisi's geographical work, and also at the opening of one of the most important historical works of Ibn Khaldun. This map is a copy of the silver disc. Just to orient you on the map, I think you would, some of you would know. So south is at the top of most Islamic maps, and what we have here are, this is the equator, the sources of the Nile, the Arabian Peninsula, and Europe here, Spain, and the Italian Peninsula, for example. So just this is orientation for you. As you can see, there are no political boundaries. The only lines are the latitudinal lines of climes up to the 7th climb. And there are no cities on this map, only regions. The great achievement of Al-Idrisi, apart from this wonderful map, is the maps of the different sectional maps. And here Idrisi was a complete pioneer, groundbreaking, and he thinks like like a digital person. He thinks like a digital, and this is the great achievement, and that's why I think this makes so much sense for new technology to help us understand it. After the silver disc was made, Roger, on his deathbed, tells Idrisi, now write a book about the world. Which seems, so according to Al-Idrisi, this happens after he made the silver disc. And what Al-Idrisi does, he says, I'm going to divide the world into 70 pixels, into a grid of 70. I'm going to take all the inhabited parts of the world, not the parts that are not inhabited, and just divide the world into 7 climes. So these would be the equator here in the north, and then 7 climes. And then each climb I'll divide by 10 from east to west. And so each region of the world is depicted in one of these 70 sectional maps. They're all uniform, equal size. Even if there's nothing there, it still has. So this is like thinking like an atlas, but an atlas that doesn't care whether there are a lot of information in the same pixel or not. They're all the same size. Nothing like that has been done in the medieval period. It is the most sophisticated map-making experiments in medieval history. This map doesn't exist. This is a reconstruction of the 70, or actually 69, because he didn't bother to do one of them, so 69 sectional maps in the different parts of the atlas. We don't have Al-Idrisi this map of the world. We only have the different, and then I'll show you the sectional, the 70 grids in different manuscripts. Not many, 10, almost all from North Africa. Technology. How does Idrisi create the links between these 7? How does he transfer in his mind and in the copying the different sectional maps into this, and how does this relate to the silver disc? So let us show you a few, just to give you a sense of the sectional maps. I want to leave a lot of time for questions, for mainly John and Nick for their amazing presentations. So this is this square. The sources of the Nile at the top of the map, south, the equator, top of the map, and this is a fourth section from coming from the west. So what you see in this map, this is the mountain of the moon, that is the source of the Nile, and flowing from it to the north is the main branch of the Nile. And then another branch is flowing all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. This is an invention by Al-Idrisi combining different cartographical traditions. And he has this mountain in the middle of the lake that makes this bifurcation of the Nile. And this is, I think, the only image from the Greaves manuscript that I will show. Sicily itself, here's where it is in the reconstruction. Sicily itself, you see here attempt to capture the details of the coast. Different islands are not always located precisely, but there's an attempt to capture the distinct features of each island. And Sicily looks like a triangle. This is here 6 climbs toward the north, and in the west, this is Ibris. Here there are cities, unlike the circular world map, here there are cities, and some indication of the people, Franks, Lothargians, and so forth that live there. And in the south, the island of Inghilterra, showing Inghilterra. So he was learning this from a French, clearly French-speaking sailors. And these are the towns of the coast. This is Dover, and this is Londres. And then the second half of the island of Inghilterra, the northern half, the one at the bottom of the map, looks like a bit like the Gough map. And this is Scotland, empty. And this is Gurfur. Oxford. So, but coming back, so this is all, what does, so I think for historians of maps, finish here really, what is the problem for us? What is the connection between this circular world map, the silver disc, 70 sectional maps, how were they copied, how they were created from each other, what is the link between them? And these are all later copies, so we're looking at mainly 16th century, 15th century copies. How do the different copies relate to each other as well? In terms of the actual, I think that there is a connection between the two. So, for example, the climb lines here, so you can think of this reconstruction as reproducing on a rectangular form without sophisticated projection these areas of the circular map, and we have the same branch of the Nile coming to the west, for example. So are distinctive features that connect the two. But how the two are related and how were they copied? is something that I think the kind of research that we've just shown will be able to really advance our understanding so much. So thank you very much for it.